Hey, what's up guys? I'm BTC. Here is the second part of the year in review for Overwatch. We already went over the best. Now it's time for the worst of Overwatch in 2017. Not every single new event, map, or character can always live up to the hype. Sometimes they're a little disappointing, sometimes they're just plain bad. If there's something that you think I missed on this list, make sure you let me know down in the comments. But without further delay, here is the worst of 2017. Starting out at number 5 is the much hyped and highly anticipated Horizon Lunar Colony, which was matched only by its disappointment. Now, I have to confess, I actually do kinda like the map a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's still a 2 capture point map. And those types of maps are just kind of inherently flawed. Usually they end up with one team either completely steamrolling the other, or it gets dragged out in endlessly stalled matches where the defenders just continue to file out onto the point and prevent it from being captured for a tremendous amount of time. 2 capture point maps are easily the most hated of any of the map types. Now, while it does have some pretty interesting scenery taking place on the moon after all, the low grav was also a pretty big disappointment, as it was only part of a very small section of the map that no one even goes to. Now, in fairness, the balancing of the low grav really makes it pretty difficult, as certain characters would be incredibly powerful and others would be almost useless. There is a tiny silver lining in this though, that the map introduced a potential new character known as Hammond. Unfortunately, other than being a test subject alongside Winston, we don't really know much about the character. So who Hammond really is, we're gonna have to wait to find out. Moving on to number 4, this one was kind of iffy. I didn't know if I actually wanted to include it, because in some regard, it's really good, and in others, it's just plain terrible. And that would be the Deathmatch game mode. So, Blizzard originally said that they were never ever going to add this, and it just didn't have a place in the game. And then a little while later, they said, alright, well, we're just going to add it to the game. And they did, and with it, they included a brand new map made specifically for the mode. And the Chateau map was incredibly well done. For that game mode, it works amazing. But what Blizzard also did was they enabled a bunch of the older maps to also function with the Deathmatch game mode, and it was just a disaster. I mean, give them credit for trying to convert the older maps into the Deathmatch mode, but it just didn't work at all. They did eventually remove a couple of the older ones from the rotation, but that really wasn't enough. Although the arena maps do work a little bit, really the only one that is actually good is that Chateau map that was specifically made for Deathmatch. So hopefully this year, maybe we'll get lucky and they'll make at least 1 or 2 more maps made specifically for the game mode. Moving on to number 3 is Orisa. This was a highly anticipated character, as it was part of that huge leak that happened early last year. But when the character was originally released, it was pretty underpowered and very underwhelming, and it saw almost no use at all for months and months and months. Only just recently has the character usage actually started to go up. But even then, it's still in the bottom half of the entire hero roster. Right now, Orisa, for Season 7 at least, only 1 player on the top 500 actively main the character, while a few others did play the character as kind of an off or secondary or third character. As far as tournament goes, Orisa usage was almost non-existent for a very long time, again until just recently, where it has moved up to about 15% usage, still way behind several of the other tanks. While 2017 was a pretty bad year for Orisa, 2018 looks like it might be a little bit better. Moving on to number 2. Where did the epic skins go? When Blizzard first started releasing seasonal events, there was a variety of stuff that you could get. There was legendary skins, of course, but there was also some epic ones thrown into the mix. They weren't as stellar as the legendary ones, but some of them were still pretty darn good. But unfortunately, Blizzard seems to have given up on the epic skins. The last time an event had an epic skin get released was the Uprising event. So that meant that the anniversary, the summer games, the Halloween, and the Christmas event all didn't see any new epics at all. Is Blizzard going to continue this into 2018? I don't know, but it's a little disappointing that they decided to get rid of it. Before we go on to number 1, there is an honorable mention, and that is going to be the one-trick SR problem in Season 5. So in case you didn't know, whenever you win a match in the competitive ladder, there is a personal SR bonus that you can get depending on how well you actually played. If you play really well, then you get a couple of extra points when you win a match. Now, in the current season, they've gotten rid of that for Diamond and above, so you can only get it for Plat and below. But before, in previous seasons, it was really bad. In fact, at its high point in Season 5, it was so bad that there were players who could make it all the way to Grandmaster with a win rate as bad as only 30%. And coming in at number 1, the most disappointing thing in 2017 for Overwatch was Doomfist. This was an incredibly hyped up character. This is the character that Blizzard added to the game, not because it was entirely needed, but just because the player base, the fans of the game, wanted it more than any other character. Blizzard finally added it, and what we got was an incredibly buggy mess. While Blizzard has made some attempts to correct some of this, Doomfist still remains the buggiest character in the game. And as far as his pick rate goes, I believe on the top 500 there is only one Doomfist player. And as far as tournament, well, let me put this image up on the screen. This is Doomfist pick rate in recent tournaments. Yes, you're seeing it right, 0.51%. The only character that's worse in terms of pick rate is Symmetra, who has exactly 0%. For such a highly anticipated and hyped up character, Doomfist turned out to be a massive disappointment. Even now, as I said, he is plagued with bugs, and honestly, we don't even know if he needs a buff or anything at this point because the bugs are so problematic. Those need to be fixed first before any sort of rebalancing can even occur. Blizzard seems to be setting up Doomfist as the main villain in the game, but in terms of gameplay, he is just the worst. So there you have it, guys. Are there any characters, events, or maps that you would have added to this list? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to check out my Discord server, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. The links are down below. Thanks for watching. Remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault. Also, special thanks to all my Patreon supporters for helping to make this all possible. If you'd like to see what kind of cool rewards you can get for supporting the channel, check the links on screen and down below.